And then FCG, eyes open, red, goes full Aeorian murder bot, attempting to attack the party. So it's most likely that FCG had a moment, went crazy, killed all of his party members, and then doesn't remember it. How's it going, guys? Welcome back to Fraud on the Telly. In today's video, we're breaking down everything that happened in last week's episode of Critical Role, Campaign 3, Episode 31, an episode in which Ira betrays the party, and FCG goes full Aeorian murder bot. As always, if you enjoy the video or learn something new, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to check out some of our other Critical Role content, as well as our video detailing everything you need to know before you watch House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones' new prequel. Okay, let's get right into it. Our episode leaves off where we were last week. The group has just given the strange little lens device to Ira, the Nightmare King, who has fixed the telescope. Now it's able to work, able to gaze in to Ruidus, and apparently able to see the magical ley lines of Exandria. This is where we got our epic moment where Orem and Imogen learn about the city inside Ruidus. Our episode takes a bit of a turn to start off, though, as it seems, like we talked about in our last episode breakdown, that Ira has some different motives. Ira begins peering through the telescope, presumably looking at possibly the city inside Ruidus, but then suddenly they change it, looking for something else. We don't find out what exactly that something else is, but it's theorized that he was possibly looking for either the ley lines of Exandria again, possibly looking for these 3 anchor points that we learned about. It's even possible that maybe, just maybe, he was looking at the Netherdeep. We don't really know because you see there begins to be some kind of a standoff between the party and Ira. Ira gives us some classic villain exposition, filling in on some of the details. It seems that Ira did in fact work with the Unseelie Court on developing this strange telescope-like machine, and then for whatever reasons they were either cut out or they left the project. We know that Ira had worked with the Unseelie during the Civil War in the Feywild years before, but for whatever reason, Ira split from the Unseelie, deciding to, okay, I'm gonna finish this project myself and make it my own. Ira basically has been taking advantage of the Callaways. We'll later find out that he has been manipulating their memory, as we knew some memory shenanigans were going on here. The Nightmare King puts up some sort of barrier, preventing anyone from stepping to him as they scurry up the machine, taking out the Moontide crown, possibly a vestige of the Divergent, from the telescope, placing it upon their head. The group try to cast spells on him, but I guess the crown itself blocks any magical effects from taking hold, or maybe this is possibly due to their Fey lineage. We're not sure. All we know is that Ira bamped the fuck out of there, leaving a broken machine and the party completely bewildered, as it seems that Ira is now off on their own mission. We don't exactly know what the heck is going on here. I knew that Ira's motives were going to be an integral part to this story, as we're not sure exactly what his intent is in building this machine. We don't even know what the heck is actually going on with Ruidus. We're still convinced that it's possible there is a god or 2 gods trapped within this city, as we were right, the lattice-like structure on the outside of Ruidus is like a precursor to the Divine Gate, which keeps the gods from coming into the material plane. The group do a little memory diving on Birdie and Ollie, discovering that yes, in fact, Ira had been using the Moontide crown to frequently manipulate the memories of the Callaways, hence why they hadn't seen their daughter Fern in so many years, hence why they've been tricked into working for them. As well, back to some of the theories we talked about last week as far as the deals with Morrigan, Fern, Ira. It doesn't seem that the deal for Fern was done by Ira. We don't know yet, but it seems like this is less unlikely now. It seems more like the deal was between the Callaways and Morrigan, but obviously the Callaways, Fern's parents, didn't realize that that's what they were giving up by asking Morrigan to protect their daughter. As well, we learned that the man that Ollie and Birdie saw in the Feywild is in fact Ludinus Da'leth. Get another one on the board for us, but to be fair, that one was a pretty easy prediction there. For those of you who don't know, Ludinus Da'leth is not a nice man. One of the heads of the Cerberus Assembly in the Dwendalian Empire. It's very worrying to see Ludinus and the Cerberus Assembly reaching their hands into this Ruidus It just means that bad news is coming, because this guy is always down to manipulate and use magical items or objects or power for his own self-gain. The party, however, are unable to find out more about Ira and the telescope. As we said, Ira bamps out, leaving the telescope machine not working. It seems like the lens inside of it, the magical lens that was created by Morrigan, is also not working anymore as they're able to shatter it. It seems like it's just a rock or some kind of lens that's non-magical at this point. Hard to know. The only clues that we have to go on are the general direction, basically, that Ira had looked into the telescope, but we don't know what it was that they were looking for. It seems most likely that it was these ley line anchors, these 3 points, as possibly the Unseelie we've said are trying to reshape the ley lines for a variety of purposes, whether it's releasing a god or crashing the moon or who the knows. Things start to calm down a bit. Delilah and Laudna finally have another little conversation as Delilah wants to suck up more of that magical juice from those Feywild rocks around her. Delilah trying to manipulate Laudna, telling Laudna that all of her friends are going to betray her. Really bad timing, as just a few moments later, FCG attempts to talk to Dancer for the second time in this episode via sending. The first time it did not go so well. It seems that Dancer is very scared of FCG for reasons we're about to find out. The second attempt to talk to Dancer also didn't go well, triggering some kind of weird, maybe stress event inside FCG as all these memories begin to swirl, and suddenly it's just static. They go cold and limp. Chetney decides it's a good idea to smack him on the head to wake him up, and then FCG, eyes open, red, goes full Aeorian murder bot, attempting to attack the party. Things get a little dramatic and out of hand here as eventually the party knock FCG unconscious. FCG saying some horrible things to the party members. It's very interesting because FCG, being kind of the therapist bot, has access to everyone's, basically their dirt, all of their personal information, and then suddenly they're weaponizing it against the party. Very up, very toxic, but wow, is it entertaining. They revive FCG, but he has no memories of the strange blackout and this attack that just happened. Matt gives us interesting little bit of information to Orem, saying that the 3 marks that look like grass on FCG's chest look a little more like 3 fingers possibly going down his chest. Maybe this is blood, paint, no idea. I'm sure this is going to get explained in the future. Maybe it has something to do with aeor, we'll see. Ashton as well starts to put 2 and 2 together, as remember, Ashton found FCG in the cave, and FCG's story, there was this one-eyed, red-eyed monster that had came and attacked and killed all of his party members except for him. Ashton then realizes that when he found FCG, only one of his eye sensors was working, and we just saw that FCG has red eyes. So it's most likely that FCG had a moment, went crazy, killed all of his party members, and then doesn't remember it. Well, Matt tells Sam that his stress points go back down to 0. It seems like there's some kind of stress mechanic that's going on here, possibly whenever FCG interacts with memories of his past that he doesn't have, maybe the stress builds up, and this is what causes these breaks mechanically in the game. It's wild because people in the fan base had been theorizing that FCG was the one that actually killed his party members basically for a while now, since we learned that FCG was an aeor bot, because we know that aeor, apart from making the only sentient alive aeormatons in all of Exandria, also created a bunch of weapons, a bunch of technological magical weapons, weapons strong enough to even kill a god, like the Aeorian hunters able to battle demons and devils. Now the question arises, is FCG a murder bot, or are they just going crazy? Was FCG originally programmed as a combat bot by Aeorians in the time of the Calamity? Was FCG originally some kind of warfare-like bot, which is kind of funny to think because he's just this little guy and he seems so sweet as he's capable of healing magic, but it makes you wonder. Other theories then are that no, FCG's not actually a war robot, but it's all these memories of their past, as FCG is hundreds of years old and has likely memories of the Calamity, that would, probably scramble his little mind, causing him to snap. We really don't know. There's so many possibilities, but wow, am I glad we're finally getting some more FCG story, as it's kind of been on pause for a minute, and I'm very, very curious to learn more about FCG and aeor. And if you want to learn more about aeor, make sure you check out our What is Aeor video. And yeah, this is where our episode ends. Not a ton happened, but there seems like a lot of personal growth that happened during this episode, as well as a lot of questions answered regarding Ira's motives, the Moontide Crown, Fern's parents' motives, FCG's backstory. So many questions that we've had have been slowly beginning to unravel. There was a lot of lore that kind of we learned and backstory stuff that we learned in this episode. So I'm completely fine with it being relatively slow-paced. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What do we think FCG is? Are they an Aeorian murder bot, an Aeorian war bot, or are they just a traumatized, sentient robot who has hundreds of years of memory and thus hundreds of years of suffering? Because if you think about it, if FCG's purpose was designed to be this healing therapy robot that absorbs the suffering of mortals, of human-like creatures, right, then of course over time it would make sense, because we have to remember he is sentient, he is a person in a way. And so it's almost like him inheriting all of this other trauma from other people and his creators has damaged the robot itself is an emotional state. Because imagine what that would do to a person, hundreds of years of dealing with people's bullshit. As always, if you enjoyed the video or learned something new, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to check out some of our other Critical Role content. And as always, guys, I will see you in the next one. Stay safe out there. Peace, love, adieu.